I am live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. And we're definitely going to connect tonight. Waiting for people to join me. I put out a video earlier today stating that I would go live this evening, and I wasn't exactly sure what time. So it's always kind of the spur of the moment with me. But we're just gonna rock and roll and go for it. I didn't give much notice. Well, I gave hours of notice, but it's sort of like, okay, here we go. Hello, Zenlo. Hello. Hello, Bella. Hello, Marilyn. Kara in the house. A member of the channel, Kara. Welcome. Hello, L. Sand Dollar. Howdy. Majoni Sop. MB Jones up. Hello, Kathy. Hello. Everybody's coming in the house. Mary's in, Kathy's in, Alfie Man's in, Jose. Hello, Margaret D. William GP from Australia. Hey, Kara, Marvin. Hello, Jean. L. Yes, from Texas. Hunter's here. Grace is here. Grace, I'm glad you're here because that's always good to have. We need grace. Yes. Hi, Jay. Yes, Catherine. Catherine, member of the channel. Yeah, she's got the new loyalty badge. The Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. Let's go. Hi, A. Hi, Alice L. Bob Masters. Oh, so positive. I got to wave back at you. We need more of that in this day and age. We already have 115 in the chat, but only 15 who hit the like button. 17, we're growing. Let's come. Dennis, I'm nervous about Clark talking about white privilege. I'm wondering if this is one off or will she go woke? Interesting. Booby. Hi. Thank you, Elle. I'm glad you do. I enjoy you all so much. The comments are moving fast. So if I miss your name, forgive me. Mike is here, Laura's here. Going to read To Kill a Mockingbird. Yeah. Oh man, we're almost done. I got two groups going right now. We're almost done. Such a powerful. I think we were all kind of like holding back a little bit of tears today. Very interesting. Okay, so from Florida, Monty's here. Yeah, Julie. Yeah, you take care of yourself. I told you I would pray for you, and I did. I was praying for you right then. Feel better. Rest. James, Joan. Hi, hello there. All right, Rosby. Okay, she is a toy with Otani. How come I'm not sure what you mean. Wendy, another member of the channel. Shout out to you. Hey. All right. Brother Ken, I was so disappointed in Caitlin. She gave these racial idolaters exactly what they wanted. Well, we're going to get into this today. I said I'm glad Grace is in the house because extending grace is so important. Thank you, Kathy, for that. Appreciate that reminder. Martha, I'm glad you're here. Might need you tonight. We'll see. We'll see, because we're going to dive in. Laura says she's trying to be a peacemaker. Jean says if you're watching CC for her social meetings, then you are not watching her for her game. She did her very best to say, I can't control what other people do, but the media will not leave her alone. Well, we'll talk about it. People need to give her grace. Yeah, people should give her grace. That doesn't mean we can't discuss. I mean, that's what we do. So if she didn't answer, she would have been the villain. Well, I don't think we need to protect her. There was a whole lot in there. So I'm sure she said what she had to say. She's not 5 years old. But she's still young, right? So we're going to talk about that. Julie, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. Cece will be okay. When I read that part of privilege, it seemed off and forced, but most of all, it didn't even sound like her. Hey, William Marlin. I forgot to check in, Brother Ken. Yes, Mile High City. Y'all need to understand how to play the long game. Plus, you guys really need to look up what happened to Kelsey Plum when she entered the WNBA to provide context. AJ, I don't know if I ever told you, AJ, that's my nickname from when I was, those who know me the longest in my life. If anyone says AJ, I know that we go way back. Yeah, bless all, Ryan. I wish you could speak to her. Mark, thank you for that. Kelly, why are people mad at Cece? She's just a decent human being, unlike y'all giving up on her. Shame on y'all. Did anybody give up on her in here? I didn't see that. I must have missed something. Because listen, we gotta set some ground rules here. Having a conversation. I mean, maybe you know what you're talking about, and maybe there are people who said they gave up on her. That's certainly not me. And of all the comments I just read, even though some were vocal about what they feel, it doesn't mean that you gave up on a person. But we cannot live in a society where you cannot have conversations. I mean, that's just not good, right? So no, like, listen to people are saying, no, CC all the way. The problem is that a lot of times we think if you say, like, we don't worship anybody, right? So that means that you can have conversations, and that's all we're having right now. I am certainly not throwing CC under the bus. I asked the question in the title, right? Has she gone full Paige Beckers, ESPY Awards? Is she just young, or is she spot on? Yes, Jay, I worship Jesus. Amen. Even Larry Bird once said basketball is a black man game. He did say that. And that whole Isaiah Thomas thing, you definitely haven't given up on her. Thank you, Infinity. I've seen plenty of comments on videos doing what the far left is doing, which is throwing her under the bus. So both sides doing it. Yeah. Yep. Have you ever heard Cece say anything derogatory about anyone? She kills with kindness in public. Yeah, that's true, Marlon. She does. But there's a difference in being kind and some of the comments that she made. Now, some of it, one of the things I did not leave off in the title, I didn't leave off the fact that it may not be about Paige at all, although it sounded quite a bit like it. It may not be that she's young. It may mean that some of y'all are just going to have to face that she meant what she said. I mean, it could just be that as well. But we're gonna talk about it. Yeah. So AJ says, I think she's taking a high road and straight up ignoring some bad actors in the league to preserve the peace. Well, she didn't just ignore, she made a statement. And so she meant what she said, Zane says. It sounded like Paige, and she meant what she said. It's interesting. So we're gonna get into this. So I'm probably gonna hold off on. I'm gonna go through the whole article. Now, it's a long article. So if you got to kind of come and go, then you come and go. I don't usually, other than if I'm doing a lot, like a game live, I don't usually stay on for a long time. I know people, they do lives for a really long time. I don't normally do that, but I am going to do it. Yeah, Kathy, not throwing anyone under the bus. Cece's doing what she has to do. She's allowed to say what she feels. She is allowed to say what she feels. Absolutely. She should not have said white privilege. Brother Ken, though, but what if that's what she means? I mean, so I wouldn't believe anything in the article. Publishers lied. I don't think they lied. I think it's about the questions they asked. But I do, April says, welcome to April, a member of the channel, a huge supporter. Appreciate you. She spoke her truth. I respect that. She said what she had to say. And a lot of times we have a mindset about people, and we want them to think a certain way. Lighthouse says she cared only about basketball. Silence and drama off court is her best feature. Okay. But now I gotta say, when we go through this article, you saw she doesn't just care about basketball. She's now said that she has a certain responsibility to make certain things happen. So there's that too. And Infinity says, need to also hear context. Yes, listen, I'm in the media business, right? I don't think they lied. I don't think they twisted her words. That's a lawsuit, probably. I think they asked certain questions to get certain answers, and I think she told them exactly what she felt. Can't she have one thing to enjoy? Guys, please don't listen. If you can't handle, I'm just gonna say this, and I'm gonna be right up. I'm gonna be up front. If you can't handle people having adult conversations about other people, then this is probably not the live for you. I mean, because that's what we do. We converse. Nobody's worshiping a person. Only people you worship. Don't ever say anything. You've got to agree with them 100%. I rail against that all the time. I am not going to agree with everything someone says. And and that's okay. Like, for real. When people got blown, when they got their heads blew a gasket because she liked the Taylor Swift post during the election time, there were people who threw her under the bus. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that. Now, I admitted in the video, I felt a little twinge or something, but that was more about me than it was about her. I have no right to demand that she thinks exactly like I think. No right whatsoever. If you do that, then you're in this for control, and that's not what we do. But on the other hand, we have to be able to have conversations. This is the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. And that's why I say this. Thank you, Roldan. I appreciate that. Because I don't think that most people who are in this chat right now, I don't think most people are here to bash Caitlin Clark. Like, we've built a community of people who absolutely respect Caitlin Clark. But we've got to be able to have these conversations. Leroy says, peace to you. Literally just justify all the mythical racism garbage. By doing this, she threw a lot of us fans who were with her from the beginning under the bus. We supported her. Okay, I'm going to get to that too. Y'all using bend to the knee for this. Those words are meaningless at this point. It's overused. Well, we know what they mean by that. Okay. Infinity says, I'm liberal. You're conservative. You be welcome at my dinner table any day. There's a difference between us and the far left, right? Bless you. That's maturity, right? I'm absolutely a conservative. And I love conservatives. I love liberals. I love people. I'm a Christian first. We don't always have to agree. And maturity, April's one of them. I point out April because April's like, I don't agree with your politics at all. Although I don't know what's not to agree with, but she's like, I don't agree. But what's that got to do with anything? Like, you work with people who don't agree with you. It's like the people who said to me, oh my goodness, you don't support Kamala Harris? I am never watching your basketball videos again because you don't think just like me. And I'm like, do you go into the grocery store and ask the grocery store owner, excuse me, who do you support? Because I'm not going to buy my meat from you if you don't think just like I think. You go into the restaurant and say, I would order your steak, but I heard you're a UConn fan. Like one person told me, oh my goodness, I like your Caitlin Clark stuff, and now I found out you don't like UConn. I'm unsubscribing. Literally, someone said that. And it's so hypocritical because we go everywhere all the time with people who don't think just like us. And we keep it moving. That's life. Okay? But we have to be able to criticize, if you want to call it that. So I'm going to take the time to go through the article. If you got to go. I know Lisa is wild. Are you conflicted about what she said? I listen, it was a gut check. It was like a gut punch, if I can be honest. It felt like a gut punch. But, and I'm gonna tell you why. Someone just said, I think it was Leroy, he felt like she threw us under the bus. I do feel like, and I'll go through this, I do feel like many of us, not just content creators, thank you, Kelly Marie, not just content creators, but people like you who are not just on the Adrienne Ross Show, but you go to the other ones as well. and you are constantly, you stood up against the stuff that people have said, and then you almost feel like, oh my goodness, we've been doing all this and she agrees with them all along. Like you start to feel like that, right? So yeah, it was a gut punch. At first, I'm reading the article and I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. He's rebounding for Caitlyn. Yeah, she just got Athlete of the Year. Reading, oh man, she hit that many shots in a row. Yes. She's proving them wrong. Remember? Oh, there are levels to this thing. Oh, remember Gino? Her fans are delusional, but look at what she accomplished. And then I'm reading, I'm like, huh? And what? What's that? So yeah. there's a lot to say. So I'm going to read it. I'm not going to share the screen because I don't want you to just be looking at an article. So if you want to pull it up on a device so that you can follow along, I'm going to read it. I'm not just going to read it nonstop. I'm going to read it and I'm going to stop and make comments along the way. Some parts I'll read faster than others. There's a link if you don't know it. She is explaining the white privilege, Monty says. April, I read the whole article. Some people have not read it and have a whole lot to say. Whatever her beliefs and thoughts, I'm just here for the love of basketball. Okay, and I did too. And that was what I said in the video I put out earlier. I know sometimes content creators are like, oh, I want to be the first on it. So they see the title and they jump. And I'm not saying it to disparage people. It's just the nature of the business, I guess. Let me get on here. And I said, I'm not saying anything until I read the whole thing. That was my thing. And I read the whole thing. And I got some things to say. So please, we also read things with our own lenses. Please remember that. True, Kara. I think she made a play, though. A Black woman's view to Caitlin Clark's white privilege, Mark says. I could write. Welcome, Arctic from Anchorage. All right, you guys ready? Yeah, I'm not looking through any political. And this really isn't actually, April. I know a lot of people said the left and the right, but what she said, even if we removed the political lens, it's really, when you start talking about white privilege and stuff, it really shouldn't be about politics. It should be about what she said. Josiah, I think they asked certain questions. She answered them. And then, as writers do, they framed it as they wanted to frame it. But what she said, she said. You know, she said what she said. And she's 22. And we don't know if he took things out of context, but she's not a baby. She's very smart. I think she knew what she said. And if she knew, so let's take that off the table. Like, because a lot of people, it makes them feel better if they say, and I'm not saying about to you in particular, but a lot of times people feel better if they say, well, she probably didn't know what she was saying. And then they feel better. Maybe she knew exactly what she was saying and she meant it. I mean, like, is that okay? Did they conveniently leave things out? They may have, right? What's up, Marcus? You feel like they took some parts out of context. We don't know that. Again, maybe she meant exactly what she said. Roldan, thank you so much. Kelly, thank you. Love your new staging area. I'm always watching your content. Keep up the great work. CC will always rule no matter what. Excellent. Black people can also be racist. They turn against other colors, white, Asian, and Hispanic. You get no argument from me from that. Of course, Cheryl Swoops would disagree, but that's a different conversation that I've addressed before. The cream rises. So, all right, I'm going to dive in. And I'm going through the whole thing. And I'm stopping along the way. And if you got to go, you got to go because it's a long article. So I'm probably not going to see your comments as I'm reading this. I put the link in there. And I can't see the chat at the moment because I'm on a different screen. So I'm not going to share the screen. I'm just going to read it. If you got it, open it up. Every once in a while, I'll peek back over here. All right. So 2024 Athlete of the Year, Caitlin Clark. Let me stop in quite a bit. Few jobs require less physical exertion than rebounding for Caitlin Clark. On an early November morning in downtown Indianapolis, Clark, the two-time College National Player of the Year from the University of Iowa, reigning WNBA Rookie of the Year from the Indiana Fever, and emergent American sports icon, sprints to different spots along the three-point line at the Fever practice gym, trying to bang as many shots as possible over a 6-minute span. A Fever coach has tasked me with standing under the basket to retrieve her misses. But as Clark runs all over the court to launch long-range bombs, I barely have to move. Swish, swish, swish. She hits 14 shots in a row, a dozen in a row, 11 in a row. Swish, swish, swish. 9 in a row, another 9. Like I said, when I started reading this, I'm like, okay, I'm loving this, right? Real deal here. Knocking down shots in a row. Let's keep coming. Sure, she's putting on this display in practice, but her ability is still mesmerizing. Clark, 22, takes shots with a degree of difficulty never before witnessed in the women's game. Her signature 30-foot launches from near half court on team logos across America are akin to home run balls hanging high in the air. Can she actually make that flabbergasting attempt? Yes, it turns out, over and over again. Loving it here. After her workout, where am I? I lost it. After her workout, I fill Clark in on the statistics from her shooting session. 93 three-pointers in 6 minutes. Good for an 85% success rate. 85%? As I said in my video today, there are people who are just trying to hit 85% from free throw. That's outrageous. Okay? Outrageous. So, let's continue. All right, so it says, wow, she responds, because she wasn't keeping track. She responds from the driver's seat of her gray Lexus GX. That's pretty good. Nice to know that after wowing so many around the world throughout her record-breaking year, Clark can still impress herself. In February, she set the new NCAA Division I women's basketball scoring record. A few weeks later, she broke Hall of Famer Pete Maravich's mark, making her the top scorer overall. Her college championship game between Iowa and South Carolina averaged 18.9 million viewers, becoming the second most watched women's sporting event outside the Olympic Games in the history of U.S. television, with American viewership outdrawing that of each game of the 2024 NBA Finals and World Series. And for the first time ever, more people tuned in for the women's NCAA championship than the men's. As a pro, she set a rookie record for most three-pointers made in a season, while also setting new all-time WNBA marks for most assists in a season and most assists in a single game. She signed a reported $28 million endorsement deal with Nike. We ain't gonna talk about that. The largest ever for a women's basketball player. Clark's Fever appeared in the most watched WNBA games ever on ABC, CBS, ESPN, and ESPN2. The WNBA attracted an all-time record of more than 54 million unique viewers across all its national broadcasting platforms during the regular season. And the league's overall attendance jumped 48% year over year to its highest level in more than 2 decades. Amazing. The Fever broke the WNBA record for home attendance by a single franchise, and Fever games were moved to NBA and NHL arenas in Las Vegas, Atlanta, and Washington, D.C. to accommodate the hordes of fans, many donning Clark's number 22 jersey. The Washington Mystics Fever regular season finale set a new WNBA single game attendance record of 20,711. And we remember that because that was the game where she barely played and Kelsey Mitchell barely played because it was the last game. And all those people were in there. Over 20,000. All right, Cristobal, hang with us here. Hang with us here. We are diving into this thing. So when asked to define her year in one word, Clark chooses historic. Clark, it quickly becomes clear, is polite and down to earth, but also has not an ounce of false humility. I have to say that was something that kind of surprised me in this, that she was as open as she was. That she, I mean, hey, what you want a word? My word is historic. Okay. All right. So I thought that was kind of interesting that she would be that open. So she's got no false humility. She said it. It's historic. I've been able to captivate so many people that have never watched women's sports, let alone women's basketball, and turn them into fans, she says. Again, that surprised me. And then I had to think, it made me think of the WNBA players who are watching or reading this article. How many of them, of course, we don't get to hear her say any of this stuff. We get to read it. I thought, how many of them would not appreciate what she just said? But she said it, and it's true. So let's continue. I've been able to captivate so many people that have never watched women's sports, let alone women's basketball, and turn them into fans, she says. Good luck naming another player who altered the trajectory of their entire team sport within 5 months on the job. Lionel Messi had a monumental influence on Major League Soccer when he arrived in Miami last year, but he was in year 20 of his pro career. Michael Jordan energized the NBA in the mid-1980s, but Larry Bird and Magic Johnson had already put the league on solid footing. While other female athletes have pushed the limits of human achievement and created their own cultures, Serena Williams, Simone Biles, and the stars of the U.S. women's national soccer team all come to mind, the Clark phenomenon is still unprecedented. It's one thing to rally around athletes during global spectacles like tennis majors or an Olympics or World Cup. It's quite another to turn routine regular season games in the WNBA, a league neglected for far too long over its 27-year history, into appointment viewing. And that's exactly what she did. Regular season, all the eyes turned to the WNBA. Nobody else has done what she has done. To be clear, now here's where it begins to turn. Here's where it begins to turn, because I think this is always going to be the case. We got to make sure we say this. So here it goes. To be clear, Clark had plenty of help. The WNBA was already enjoying positive momentum going into the 2024 season, thanks to MVPs like A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart, and some of Clark's fellow rookies like Angel Reese and Cameron Brink brought their own followings. But Clark took the league and the sport to a new level. Even during a period when investment across women's sports is surging, team valuations are on the rise, and fan interest and engagement are at all-time highs, her arrival was transformative. Clark's skyrocketing fame has upended her life at a dizzying rate. She now has an advanced security squad. A fan asked her to sign a sonogram. There's just so much weird stuff, she says. The Golf Channel covered her appearance at an LPGA Pro-Am event as if she were Tiger Woods in his prime, moving up its studio show by 90 minutes to provide live look-ins at her swings. She's box office, says Atlanta Dream co-owner Renee Montgomery, a former WNBA player. And they stopped short there of saying that this is the Renee Montgomery who said they not like us, and who said Caitlin Clark's stands are a problem. Okay, we're going to get to that. She didn't necessarily, you'll see what she said. She did refer to white privilege. Okay. At times, the plot proved unpleasant. All year, Clark found herself party to raging debates, even though she rarely, if ever, did anything to perpetrate them. I tell people I feel like the most controversial person, says Clark, but I am not. It's just because of all the storylines that surround me. I literally try to live and treat everybody in the same exact respectful, kind way. It just confuses me at times. This is absolutely telling. This is the heart, she's saying, of who I am. And this is why I say we have to have grace, because she's trying to understand. I'm here. I'm just doing what I do. I treat everybody with respect. And somehow my name is constantly associated with controversy. And I don't understand it. I don't get it. That's not who I am. This is what she's trying to say. Okay. So she says, it goes on to say that her gender played a role in the level of scrutiny is hard to deny. Clark's introductory press conference, I'm going to substitute gender with sex. We are using the word gender incorrectly, but I'll save that for another channel, I guess. That her gender played a role in the level of scrutiny is hard to deny. Clark's introductory press conference with the fever was a harbinger of things to come. You guys may remember this. A male reporter appeared to make a cringe-worthy attempt at flirtation with Clark. He was suspended and prohibited from covering the fever. You may remember that. He did the heart thing, and that was just it was really weird. All right. Caitlin Clark is with us today, and she just gave $2. I've been channeling my inner Paige Beckers, so I guess that's what you agree with the title. Okay, let's keep going. Here we go. Where am I? Where did I leave off? This is a long paragraph here. So, as the season progressed, more flashpoints emerged, whether concerning the marketing advantage granted by her race, whether concerning the marketing advantage granted by her race, fouls that players committed against her, or her exclusion from the U.S. Olympic team that spurred her so-called defenders to push racist, misogynistic, anti-LGBTQ narratives, or even threaten WNBA players directly. She calls this toxicity upsetting and gross. But during the season, she addressed the discourse mostly when asked about it in courtside interviews or at press conferences, rather than proactively engaging with it. It's not something I can control. And to be honest, I don't see a lot of it, she told The Athletic's Jim Trotter in June. Her extended interview with Time is the first time she's talked at length about her year. I find this interesting. Now, this is where some of you say, well, did she really say this, or are they twisting things, etc.? This is written as if this is fact, that because she was left off the Olympic team, because some of the fouls, that there was misogynistic, anti-LGBTQ, racist comments that were out there. It's said as if it's a given. Now, I have to ask, because I think other than one thing, I've not seen examples of these things that we're supposed to believe are done by Caitlin Clark's fans. As much as people get on social media, and I've said before and I'll say again, I don't doubt that there are people who have said racist things. I've seen comments both ends. I wrote an article before the WNBA season started called "What If Caitlin Clark Were Black?" There were people who knew nothing about me, who didn't even watch. I did a video on that. Who didn't even watch the video and came out and said things to me that were racist. They assumed that I didn't like Caitlin Clark. They just looked at the title. What if Caitlin Clark were Black? And it was totally not anti-Caitlin at all. But I'm telling you, some of the things flew. I'll just tell you one thing I remember. One person said, well, if Caitlin Clark were Black, then her father would be at her games. There were quite a few things. There was one, I came back at him really hard, and he ended up, when he realized that I was on Caitlin's side, he ended up, to his credit, apologizing. So I've seen some of those things. But I've also been on the receiving end of comments from Black people who come at other Black people because they support Caitlin Clark. And I think that's where it felt like a gut punch for some. Caitlin has quite a few Black people who love her game and content creators who have gone to bat and have been called all kinds of names, standing up against the narrative that she just has privilege. And so you've got to, while we're understanding Caitlin, we also have to understand that there are many Black people such as myself. Hey, Kathy. There have been many Black people such as myself who have gotten the punch in the gut, who've gotten attacks on social media, who've been called sellouts. I remember someone writing, I plan to do a book on this. I remember someone writing, are my pancakes ready yet? Meaning calling me Aunt Jemima, calling me a sellout. And so I think you've got to understand that there are some people who feel like she bent the knee while they put themselves out there and stood and defended, and allow her not to be able to say anything because as surrogates, so to speak, unofficial, we kind of stood up. But this article is written as if she said it the way this is written here. She calls this toxicity upsetting and gross. Now, did Caitlin call it toxicity? Did he say to her, Caitlin, there's word that there have been anti-LGBTQ, there have been racist comments, there's word about that we're hearing. What do you think of that? To which she would then say, that's gross and disgusting. But notice what she also said. She said, let me find it. I gotta find it. She said to the Athletics Jim Trotter in June, it's not something I can control. And to be honest, I don't see a lot of it. Why not? If this is so prevalent, the misogynistic comments, the racist comments, all of this stuff. Exactly, William. If it's so pervasive, how was it that Caitlin said in June? Now, that was early in the season. Honestly, I'm not seeing this. I don't see much of it. I mean, did it get that worse after June? I guess that's a possibility. Let's continue. So this is the first extended interview for about her year at length with Time. All of this is really speaking to something much larger than Caitlin Clark, says Teresa Runstetler, a scholar of African American history at American University. Interesting. So they, in their interview, they go talk to, unless it was published somewhere, they talk to or take the word of someone who is a scholar of African American history. And she says, this is much larger than Caitlin Clark. It's speaking to our unresolved issues about race, gender, and sexuality in American society at this particularly fraught moment in our political landscape. And to this, I'm going to say, This is where my book is going to be focused, because I believe that Caitlin Clark being on the scene at this time is no accident. And I believe that she has pulled the mask off of what's in people's hearts. Some of it good, and honestly, I've seen much of it good. The people I've gotten to communicate with through this channel, the people who send me emails or direct messages, these people are not out there dogging people at all. But Caitlin Clark has, by coming to the forefront, she's shown the good, the new relationships, all this stuff. But a lot of it has been people having their buttons pressed because of the issues within them. And it's revealed it. We can't deny it anymore. Do I think that means that a whole large portion of the country is just racist? No. I think people have internal issues that they never dealt with. And Caitlin Clark brings it out. Like I said in the video that I put out the other day with the calling Jan Jensen racist. And people saying, why are you even talking about this? Because we need to talk about this. When you're not the one being called a racist, then you don't find the need to talk about it. There are things to talk about. So yeah. Anyway, you got an arm, it's been broken, it looks like it's healed, it looks good, and somebody comes along and they bump into it and you scream. Why do you scream? Because it looks healed, but it's not. And there are a lot of people out there just like that. So every time you look wrong, you criticize, it's all because you're racist. It's revealing what's going on in our society. Not so much that, oh, America is just as racist as we have a history of being racist. It's you won't let it go. And when everything is racist, I'm saying there is racism. I just shared some from both sides. But when every single thing is racist, then nothing is racist and nobody takes you seriously. Everything we just listen, I can get deep, and I'll do this on my other channel, which is some of you know have already subscribed, and I got to put content out. I haven't started yet, but subscribers are adding. Adrienne Ross Squared. We just had a verdict in a case. Daniel Penny, who's on a subway, and a black man comes on the subway, and he's threatening, I don't mind dying. I don't mind dying. Somebody's going to die today, etc. And now, thank God, he was found not guilty because he went into action, a former Marine. He goes into action to save not just white people. It's a white man, not just white people, but black people, because they were in danger. And now BLM and all the people are outraged and want to protest and want to tear stuff up and talking about we need black vigilantes because facts don't matter anymore. He happens to be white. The man who was acting a fool happens to be black. And now it's a race issue. Anyway, and again, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It does. But it's not like it's not as much. People want it to continue because it sells. Racism sells. Racism riles people up. Racism wins elections. At least if they have their way, it will. But people are waking up. And yes, Marisol, it's exactly what we were talking about. We have to give her some grace, but we also, as a culture, have to discuss these things. Exactly, boxing. And there were 4 black people. Thank you. Yes. Okay, let's continue. So, still, In the face of all this heaviness, joy remains the resident vibe of Clark's 2024. Her talent brought together communities. That's what I'm talking about. In SRO arenas, in sports bars, in living rooms, on social media to celebrate her fire, unselfish play, and ability to score in inconceivable ways when she needed to. Clark certainly fed off this electricity. You feel powerful, Clark says. Instantly, everybody goes crazy. People are invested in the game. They love the game. And that's what makes it so fun for me. These people aren't supporting women's sports to check a box. It's going to be the new normal, she says. Hello, Aunt B. I don't know if it's going to be the new normal. Thank you, Y-Rock. I don't know if it's going to be the new Smooth Will. It's called Adrienne Ross Squared. If I don't know if it's going to be the new normal, but I know that where Caitlin is for now, it's the normal for people to tune in. All right. So, by the way, for whatever reason, sometimes YouTube kicks me off of my lives. Hoping and praying that doesn't happen. If it does, I'm just going to start another live. So follow me over. Let's continue. The weekend before our interview, Clark attended back-to-back Taylor Swift shows at Lucas Oil Stadium. She met Swift's mother and boyfriend, Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce. When fans noticed her sitting in the suite, they turned around to take pictures or toss her friendship bracelets. People are just going crazy that I'm there, she says. I thought people would be so in their own world, ready to see Taylor. And it was just completely the opposite. She's coming to grips with this fame. Like who thought of that growing up in Iowa as a kid, shooting in your yard driveway? Swift gave Clark 4 bags of ARS Tour merchandise with a note saying Clark was inspiring to watch from afar. She said, Trav and I were excited to get to a fever game now that the tour was winding down, and invited Clark to attend a Chiefs game with her. And you know, Clark really likes Taylor Swift. Clark has always seemed destined for greatness. I want to get back to this because I already said, and somebody put it in the chat already, I believe it's for such a time as this. I do. Which is why one of the reasons I rail against the idea of privilege. Sometimes it's privilege, but it's not white privilege. Sometimes it's God privilege. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. Clark has always seemed destined for greatness, if not friendship, with the biggest pop star in the world. Her path to this women's sports paradigm shift started in West Des Moines, Iowa, where Clark played multiple sports as a kid before focusing on her best one. She's the second of 3 children. Clark has 2 brothers. Her father, Brent Clark, is executive vice president at a company that sells and distributes agriculture and industrial parts, and her mother is a retired marketing executive. Jan Jensen, an Iowa assistant coach at the time, first watched Clark play when she was in middle school. She hit a step-back three-pointer and threw a long pass her teammate couldn't catch. Sound familiar, Fever fans? But the ball was on the money. You could see her swag, says Jensen, the way she walked in a Pee-wee game when everybody's like, your shot hit the rim. Let's go get ice cream. She's like, I don't want any freaking ice cream. I want to win. That's when Caitlin Clark mission began. And I did a video on this recently about what Jan Jensen said about how they showed her tape and they showed her some of her actions and things like that, because she's wired differently. Just like Kobe, just like Michael, it was hard for people to play with him in some ways because they didn't like to just get ice cream. You hit the rim. She's like, freak that. I want to win. And she worked hard to win. Okay. Her Catholic family wanted her to pick Notre Dame for college, but Clark shunned the Fighting Irish to play for her home state school. She put up big numbers at Iowa immediately, but had trouble hiding her frustrations. She'd shake her head when someone screwed up or take it out on a towel or chair. If somebody couldn't catch a pass, she'd throw her hands up and do a pirouette, says Lisa Bluter, the Iowa head coach during Clark's years at the school. Bluter retired after last season, and Jansen now runs the program. The coaching staff worked with Clark, as I just mentioned, to improve her body language, showing her video of her outbursts, and she reined it in for the most part. By her junior year, Iowa was knocking off undefeated South Carolina in the national semis to reach the finals against LSU. That championship game was Clark's inauguration into the 24-hour sports news cycle. In the final moments, when it was clear LSU would win, here we go. Tigers forward, Angel Reese approached Clark and pointed at her ring finger, a bit of trash talking that sparked needlessly cruel backlash. Reese was labeled classless and worse. Clark and Reese were pitted against each other as rivals, a narrative that has carried over to the WNBA. I don't get that at all, says Clark. We're not best friends by any means, but we're very respectful of one another. Yes, we have had tremendous battles, but when have I ever guarded her? And when has she guarded me? She downplays Reese's gesture. I didn't think it was taunting, says Clark. It really didn't bother me. It's just like, why don't you talk about them winning or the incredible run that we went on that nobody would have thought we would have ever gone on? The only thing people cared about was this controversy that was really fabricated and made up. And then that has continued to be the case ever since. So she's just like, how can this be a rivalry between the two of us? She doesn't guard me. I don't guard her. Two different positions. But she is, in this case, I think, either being extremely polite or naive. Because she said, what did she say? I didn't think it was taunting. It was taunting. I mean, you can move on from there, right? But it was certainly taunting. But anyway, in other words, her focus is different. She said, even in the post game, she said, oh, I didn't even notice it. I was interested in getting to my teammates whom I spent all this time with. Her focus was my team. Angel who? Angel who? Okay. So it's fabricated, she says. Going into her senior year, Clark was in a much different position than women's basketball players who have come before her. Iowa played summer exhibition games in Italy and Croatia, and with the help of name, image, and likeness, NIL sponsorships, money from brands like Nike, Buick, and the Midwestern grocery chain Hy-Vee, Clark treated her teammates to a yacht outing in the Adriatic. I wouldn't say it was boozy, says former Iowa manager Will McIntyre, now director of scouting and technology for the Rutgers women's team. I would say bougie. Very generous of her to do that. Clark loved college life and even considered returning for a fifth year instead of entering the 2024 WNBA draft. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, NCAA players were granted an extra year of eligibility. Around January, however, Clark knew it was time to move on. It helped that the Fever had won the draft lottery, assuring that Clark, unquestionably the number one pick, would begin her career in the Midwest. She announced her intention to enter the draft at the end of February. Lynn Dunn, then the Fever general manager, now a senior advisor, saw the news on X. I would have done a back handspring if I wasn't 77 years old. All right. So about a month later, on the eve of this year's NCAA tournament, West Virginia's coach told his players, let's send Caitlin Clark packing. So after Iowa dispatched the Mountaineers in the second round, Clark took a microphone before practice, stood on the scorer's table, and sang Country Roads at the top of her lungs. I kind of just troll, Clark says. She is a big, loud personality with people she's comfortable with. When former Iowa teammate Kate Martin visited Clark's Indy apartment as a member of the Las Vegas Aces in September, Clark serenaded her with Luke Combs' song on her karaoke machine. She's not a good singer at all, says Martin. For the record, Tammy Fagbenle, who we'll get to shortly here, in her comments, Tammy Fagbenle, who was Clark's Fever teammate this season and will join Martin on the expansion team, the Golden State Valkyries, in 2025, disagrees. As a rookie, Clark was tasked with singing happy birthday to the team's vets. She wouldn't just sing a regular happy birthday, says Fagbenle, who gives Clark's voice a 7.5 on a 10-point scale and believes her sense of humor and charisma are part of her appeal. It would be a grandiose performance. I could hear Timmy. It would be a grandiose performance. She loves her moments. Okay, so we get a look into how much fun she is, right? All right. Let's continue. After a much-hyped Clark-Reese rematch in the Elite Eight that drew the second largest ESPN audience to any basketball game, college or pro, in a dozen years, the Hawkeyes fell short in the championship game for the second straight year. this time to once again undefeated South Carolina. During the podium celebration, Dawn Staley, the venerated Gamecocks coach, clutched the mic and said, "I want to personally thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport." This lays a good groundwork, of course, all of this for why she is the unquestionable, undisputed athlete of the year. Clark had little time to reflect on her accomplishments. 2 days before the WNBA draft, she flew to New York City after staying up late in Los Angeles while receiving the Wooden Award as National Player of the Year, went straight to the Saturday Night Live set, and collapsed on a couch there from fatigue. She got big laughs during her weekend update segment, needling co-host Michael, is it Che? You can see I don't watch Saturday Night Live, for past jokes about women's sports. Her favorite, after she told Clark that he'd pass along a signed apron she gave him to his girlfriend, Clark quipped, "You don't have a girlfriend, Michael." The crowd howled. Clark says Jason, and again, Sudeikis, don't know, who had cheered her on at Iowa games, has suggested that add-on. All right, let's get to it. Clark's segment did include a more serious moment as she thanked a quintet of Black women, Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Cynthia Cooper, Staley, and Maya Angelou. The English teacher in me. You guys know what Maya Angelou is, right? Maya Moore. Here's the interesting part. Just from that, as they see it, as Time magazine sees it. Thank you, Johnny. As they see it, she didn't thank basketball players. She thanked Black basketball players. She thanked Black women. She thanked basketball players who happen to be Black. But I think we have to keep that in mind. There are people, there are outlets who see everything through the lens of color. Everything. Well, Adrienne, yeah, she mentioned Swoops because Swoops is Cheryl Swoops. Regardless of what she said now and done now, Cheryl Swoops is Cheryl Swoops. I mean, 4 championships, couple MVPs. I mean, if you've seen her play, there's a reason why I was a huge Cheryl Swoops fan. I did not see Swoops' reaction. Oh, goodness. Okay. So, this writer mentions that she thanked a quintet of Black women. And everyone she mentioned, I could see why she would thank them as basketball players. So Maya Moore, of course, was Clark's basketball hero growing up for paving the way for her success. Yeah. These stars, despite their athletic prowess, the writer says, were never rewarded with the same level of attention that Clark is now receiving. America was founded, now we're quoting Timmy, okay? Another gut punch for me. America was founded on segregation, and to this day is very much about Black and white. In fact, Ben Lay, who loved playing with Clark, writes in a text message. So my guess is maybe they wanted a comment from her, and they texted her. She texted them. I don't know. And she continued, Timmy did. In a sport dominated by Black/African-American players, white America has rallied around Caitlin Clark. The support looks mostly amazing, sometimes fanatical and territorial, sometimes racist. It seems that the great white hope syndrome is at play again. I have to pause there. Thank you, Brian. I have to pause there. I was shocked. I shouldn't be shocked. I don't know Timmy. But the great white hope syndrome is, I love Timmy. I wish Timmy well, of course. But that's what we're talking about, sports and culture, because sports are just a microcosm of society. And she's saying America was founded on segregation. And obviously segregation has been a part of American history, right? But it was founded on segregation. and to this day is very much about black and white. Wow. I can't deny that it is. Like I said, Caitlin Clark's emergence has shown a light on what's in the hearts of people. But I also have to say that people want it to be about black and white. People benefit from it being about black and white. People have taken a Caitlin Clark, whom the vast majority wanted to watch because she has done things, as he said at the beginning of this article, that no one else has been able to do, and has drawn the viewership no one else has been able to draw, and has all kinds of accolades, which he spelled out. And yet it's the great white hope syndrome. I don't get it. That we were looking for someone to be the great white hope. Now, I have heard that expression before from people who were, I think, black, making comments about Caitlin in the beginning of the season. You know, somebody said something like he called the great white hype, the great white savior has been crucified already. I remember reading that. Hebro, thank you so much. Tiger Woods also praised the white people, not why is race even a thing? It's a game. The WNBA is only for black lesbians, and I'm out. Well, just hang in here. Remember, she's 22, she's young, and she may mean exactly what she said. But right now we're talking about what Temi said. So Temi says it's very much black and white. Now notice what she said. White America has rallied around Caitlin Clark. Now, I will say this. There are some people, because as Caitlin said and others have said, it's been a sport dominated mostly by black people. So when Caitlin Clark came along and they're like, yo, this white chick, she's shooting a mess out the ball. She's breaking ankles. There was a certain amount of interest, not because necessarily people were racist, but because we've all said it, it's been mostly dominated by black people. In my video months ago, what if Caitlin Clark were white? I talked about that. There were certain people who never gave women's basketball a chance because in their minds, it was just, it's just more of those black women playing basketball. But because she was white, it did cause some people to look. But the girl can play basketball. Ain't nobody gonna stay looking at you if you can't play. Tiger Woods, he drew attention. He drew attention because it's a sport. He was good at his sport, but it wasn't. People weren't. It was like a little bit of an anomaly. Like, oh my goodness! All right, look at him do his thing, and he drew attention. That's not a racist thing. It's a human reaction. Serena Williams. I'm a huge Serena Williams tennis player. I'm not a huge fan of some of the other stuff, but as far as her tennis, I would get up in the middle of the night when she was playing a major in another country so that I could watch. Serena Williams, Venus Williams, loved them. And they did endure some racism. But the vast majority of people paid attention because, wow, you don't often see it that way. You don't often see a lot of black women dominating in tennis. So it caught people's attention. And then they both simply beat everybody. And now people are tuning in because they're so good. Why can't it be like that with Caitlin? Why can't people just acknowledge that she's just that good? And we want to watch her. Oh, it's because you're white. Oh, you're selling out. a lot of that happened because of the Angel Reese situation. And people saw it, they took it up as a black versus white thing. All right. So Tammy's comments I find disturbing. But she did say the support looks mostly amazing. Mostly amazing. We can't, don't miss the word she's saying here. Mostly amazing. Sometimes fanatical and territorial. And I won't disagree with that. It really is. Sometimes racist. And I won't disagree with that either, because I think that exists. There are some people who are racist. I've seen it. But the vast majority of people just enjoy the game. And I don't understand why these media people, why is it just Caitlin Clark being asked about racism? Why are they pretending that there aren't weird people everywhere? Okay. So where did I leave off? After Timmy, right? Going into the WNBA season, Wilson, a two-time league champion and now three-time WNBA MVP, told the Associated Press she thought Clark's race was a, quote, huge contributor to her popularity. It doesn't matter what we all do as Black women. We're still going to be swept underneath the rug, Wilson said. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is. We've heard that before. A'ja Wilson, who grew up doing quite well. This, to me, is an insult. Caitlin Clark has balled out. So how when she comes into the league, you say, it boils my blood when they say it's not about race, because it is about race. If she were a scrub, maybe I might think about what you had to say. Marisol, we're having a conversation. We got to have conversations, and we can extend grace. But she's not 2 years old. So we can talk about this. That's what we do. It's okay. Thank you, Jake. But so here's what A'ja said. Now, A'ja ain't two either. And this is not Asia's first time in the league. And yet she said, I mean, understand, Clark is hearing this stuff. This is what I'm talking about. There is a culture in the WNBA that lends itself to that mindset. There is a culture. And Caitlin's hearing this privilege stuff from A'ja, privilege stuff from Dejanay, apologize basically for your whiteness. I mean, there's all this stuff that this young woman is dealing with. Yes, it is an agenda, and it's a spirit involved. And people seem to enter the WNBA one way, and it's not long before things change. It's interesting to me. But it's also insulting for A'ja to say what she said. But she said it. And it wasn't the first time or the only time. Clark is cognizant of the racial underpinnings of her stardom. Okay. Here we get to the crux of it. I want to say I've earned every single thing. Now, it's interesting to me that it starts with I want to say. Because to me, that might mean he says, so all the stuff about race, the stuff that A'ja said about privilege, would you like to address that? Is there anything you want to say about that? Remember, these outlets have an agenda. I work in the media industry. There's a bit, there's a lean, there's an agenda. Everybody has one, whether it's a good one or a bad one. Yep, Jan, the culture is, it starts young. Be careful where your kids go to school. So I want to say I've earned every single thing. But as a white person, there is privilege, says Clark. I got to stop there because Caitlin, we love you, but you just contradicted yourself. You cannot have it both ways. You can't say I've earned every single thing and at the same time say that I have white privilege. You can't. You either got where you got because of privilege or you earned it. But it can't be both. So again, she said, I want to say I've earned every single thing. Caitlin is so smart. She like, listen, this young woman knows she's a baller. She knows she's a basketball player. She knows what she can do. We read it at the beginning of the article. She already said, right? Yeah. Wow. Like this season has been historical. She knows what she brings to the table. So she ain't going out like that. She's not going to say, yeah, she going to make sure you know I earned every single thing. Exactly, Pope. Caitlin can't speak for anybody's mindset except her own, whether it's fans, detractors, haters, trolls, whatever, just as they think that Caitlin should be responsible for everyone is saying. Exactly. And that's why she shouldn't take it on. But she's going to let you know, I earned it, which is what nullifies the next thing she says. But as a white person, there is privilege. So now I got to say, does Diana Taurasi have privilege? Well, we don't know everything she said. We talked about that. But whatever is in quotation marks, she said. What we don't know is the way the question was phrased, because writers will always bring it out the way they want to bring it out. But we also have to keep in mind that Caitlin may very well mean what she said and said what she meant. And we don't have to agree with her. I keep reading comments, though, of people who said, show it to us, show it to us. Why is it so difficult to believe that Caitlin said what they said she said? Maybe she just feels that way. And she's 22. But the quotes are the quotes. And I can just tell you that as a writer, as someone in the media, the quotes are generally the quotes, because if not, you're dealing with a whole lot of stuff. But it can be written in such a way, the questions that are asked can lead down a certain road. And I have no doubt that there was an agenda here. She did say white, Mike. I just read it. I'll read it again. I want to say I've earned every single thing. But as a white person, there is privilege. So I'm going to continue. A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. Now, notice this. This is why I said it's not just about basketball, though we want it to be. She just told you what it's also is for her. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate Black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. She said it. UNA Republic. Welcome. Saw your video the other day. I'm glad you asked that question. Yeah, I saw your video about the well, you had a lot of stuff in there, but one of them, it was about the expansion draft and stuff. And I was like, I was talking out loud, listening to you. Right on, right on. The reason why I said Paige Beckers, I'm glad you said that. For those of you who may not know, is that a lot of what she's saying right here, Paige Beckers in 2021 gave her ESPY Award speech. And in that speech, she said basically right what Caitlin is saying here. She got up there and said, I got this award. I appreciate this award. But there have been other Black women who have done stuff and they don't get no awards. They don't get no shine. They don't get this. And thank you for doing this. But I believe that Black people need to be elevated. So that's why the Paige Beckers comparison has been made, because it sounds a whole lot like what Paige said. And so that's one of the reasons Paige will be treated differently than Caitlin was treated. You know, and I know when people say that, their heart's in the right place. There's nothing there. Listen, for those of you who are saying, "Oh, bump Caitlin," listen, she already told us at the beginning of this. We talked about the beginning. She said, "There's so much controversy surrounding me, and I don't get it. I'm just a person who I treat everybody with respect. I treat everybody the same way. I don't understand all this other stuff that's going on." And Michael T, that's exactly what I was going to say. Black people do not need to be elevated. And I think people, guys, come on. This is the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. Black people don't need to be elevated. Okay. But I think these people who say those things like Paige. All right, let me know. Am I back? I'm back. Okay, great. I was about to start another one. YouTube does this to me all the time. It's so frustrating. But I think people like Paige is where I left off. UNA Republic. I saw what you're saying. It went up, but I know I caught a bit of it. I was frozen. And you said your point being that there's an agenda if she sounds just like her. Is the agenda to fit in? Is the agenda I got to deal with these people? I know what I went through, and that Paige hadn't even been in the league yet, but Paige is a little different. Understand that Paige comes from a mixed family, and her perspective might be a little bit different. I don't know, but to me, it sounds like pandering. And so, though Paige means well, I believe she meant well, and notice the people were clapping. And this is the problem. This is the problem I find. And Caitlin will learn this. I mean, we got grace for Caitlin. But this is the thing. I've said this in videos before. Once you give in, it's never enough. It's never enough. That's why it's better. It would have been. I loved it when Caitlin was just doing her thing. Like I'm not even getting down with this. I'm here for basketball. Remember? And they're like, "Oh, Dijonay, it must be nice. It must be nice to be able to just do that." But it's never enough. It's like giving red meat to a dog. They want more. It'll always be more. And so when Caitlin is not pandering, she's not pandering. There's a difference. There's a nuance. Adrienne, you know that. I'm talking about Paige. I just said that Caitlin said, I talked about the beginning of the article. Let me think about that for a moment. I did say at the beginning of the article, she's saying we need to treat everybody the same. We should, but she's contradicting herself here. If you're saying I have to elevate Black people, then you're not saying that you're treating everybody the same. You're saying that Black people have to be treated somewhat differently because we owe them that. That's what she's saying. I believe her intention is right. I believe her heart's in the right place. But it's also not meaning to. It's also condescending. That's all right, Michael. Because when it's sort of like, if you know anything about Malcolm X, one of the things Malcolm X said, as radical as he was, and changed toward the end of his life somewhat, but he used to say equality with the white man is not the goal. He used to say, who is the white man to be equal to? So my goal is not to be equal. Your goal, Caitlin, should not be to lift up Black people, I assume, so that they're on the same, you feel like they've been mistreated, they've been overlooked. And I get what she's saying. But on the other hand, we're saying that they've dominated the sport. Which is it? They've dominated the sport, but they haven't been able to draw the eyeballs that Caitlin has been able to draw. Neither have the white people. Where's Diana Taurasi's white privilege? Where's Kelsey Plum's white privilege? Asia Wilson. Where's Breonna Stewart's white privilege? They're white. If Caitlin got where she got because she's white, then we shouldn't even be having this conversation. It might have been, let's be honest, her being white drew some attention, but it's her game. And so when you say, I got to make sure we do this, like, Caitlin, just go play basketball. You've got a team to carry on your shoulders. Don't let them put on you the cares of the entire world and their own racial idolatry. It's just, and so for those who say it's not pandering, and I said, no, to a certain extent it is. And it may be. Some of it may be, I gotta live with these people, so to speak. I gotta be in this league with these people, so to speak. They've been knocking me on my tail, punching me in my throat, telling me that I gotta speak for everything. Maybe there is such a thing called self-preservation. And unless we walk where she's walked, we might want to extend some grace. So, I don't know. April, just to be perfectly clear, Carrington saw the stardom Reese gained off the back of CC and wanted that same attention, period. Yeah. They say, don't matter what they say about you, long as they're talking about you, right? So that might be it. And we're going to get to Carrington in a moment. But again, when you give them an inch, they take a mile. It'll never be enough, because what they saw in Caitlin was a crack in the armor. They saw a crack in the armor right there. They saw a weakness. Will they respond to it by saying, she's like Paige, when they clapped and clapped and clapped because Paige just fed them what they wanted to hear, fed the victim mentality, fed the you owe us something, let's clap? Or will it be, we got your number? No matter what she does, everybody's going to interpret it whatever they want. Yeah, well, that's the case with everybody. I mean, that's just how it is. And she's got all eyeballs on her. But we have to look at what she said, right? And again, as I said, for those of you who entered late, this is not bashing Caitlin Clark. People in this chat are supporting Caitlin Clark. But because we don't worship people, it's okay to talk about it. Oh, did he, Anthony? Oh, Anthony, what's up? I didn't realize that. But yeah, it is. It's the truth. It's a bit of and you don't owe them that, Caitlin. That's what I want to say. You don't owe them that. But I believe her heart's in the right place. So let's continue. Again, this is what she said. A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been Black players. This league has kind of been built on them, although the league was started with Cheryl Swoops and Rebecca Lobo in mind. Then Lisa Leslie came along, right? And then Ruthie Bolton Holyfield signed. But Rebecca Lobo was right up in there. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think is very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate Black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. And notice that this is just what Caitlyn does. Remember when she went behind the scenes and tried to get them to make extra money when she played on the road? When they, she tried, I forgot what you call it. She tried to help them out down low key, on the down low. Right? People have to remember what she's done for the game of all women's basketball. Yeah, Michael T says the faces of the league are white, Sabrina, and more so. But somehow Caitlyn has to be apologizing. But yeah, she wants to help. She wants to uplift. She tried to do that before. And she says it's going to be a beautiful thing. When Clark and her fellow soon-to-be rookies arrived at the WNBA draft on April 15th, it was clear that women's basketball had entered a new era. Clark, whom fans had seen mostly in her jersey, gym shorts, and ponytail, became the first athlete in the WNBA or NBA to be dressed for the draft head to toe in Prada, right down to the tinted sunglasses she wore on the orange carpet. The event broke another viewership record as ESPN's audience more than quadrupled over the previous year. For those of you who are just joining us, we are reading through this and stopping and making comments along the way. Clark's Fever teammates received a taste of their new reality on a preseason trip to Dallas to play the Wings. For one of only 2 times this year, Indiana flew commercial. The WNBA instituted charter flights for the regular season, and autograph hounds greeted the team at the gate. People were literally running after us / Caitlyn in the airport, says Fever guard Lexi Hall. Cameras flashed as they went to get to baggage claim. The Fever needed to load the bus, so Clark didn't have time to stop for pictures. I love this part. One guy chastised her. Caitlyn, you're not that big time. I'm not big time, Clark says now, but you chased me through the terminal. I like that, right? She's like, yeah. Now that I can't sign your mess, now you want to act like I'm not all that. Meanwhile, you were on my heels the whole way. Okay? So, Christy Sides. Oh, goodness. We got to look at this. Christy Sides, the Fever coach this past season, recalls the throng of people gathered to watch Clark walk to the bus before her regular season debut against the Connecticut Sun. It was people my age, said Sides 47. It was people my parents' age. It was people between my and my parents' age. I saw people crying. I saw people shaking. It made me think of the Beatles or Elvis. Despite all the hype, however, the Fever season threatened to implode before it ever really got started. Clark committed 10 turnovers in their debut game, a new record for a career opener. The schedule offered no favors to the young team, which also included the reigning WNBA Rookie of the Year, Leah Boston, the number 1 overall pick in 2023. The Fever faced the Sun, a league semifinalist this season, and the New York Liberty. The Fever faced the Sun, a league semifinalist season, and the New York Liberty, the 2024 champs, in its first 4 contests before heading west for a 3-game swing that included a matchup against 23. You guys know it was tough. They played the Aces then. Clearly there was zero flow within the team, says Clark. It was just so choppy and no one really knew what the other person was doing. Our defense was really bad. Now we're going to get to hear her talk about what she thought of how they started. Clark was also adjusting to the rigors of the WNBA. Professional players and professional coaches, this is no disrespect to college women's basketball, are a lot smarter, she says. I love women's college basketball, but if you go back and watch the way people guarded me in college, it's almost like concerning. They didn't double me. They didn't trap me. They weren't physical. And it's hard. It's college. A lot of these women will never go on to play another basketball game in their life. They don't have the IQ of understanding how the game works. So I completely understand it. And it's no disrespect at all. They don't have the IQ. You have to simplify it for girls at that age. I find that interesting because a lot of people feel like the college game is a better game to watch and more, Kate just said it, more entertaining. And Caitlin talks about how they didn't double her or stuff like that. Maybe they just wanted to play like real basketball, right? And not just be guarding you for 94 feet all the time. But I'm not in there playing. So she says they're smarter. She says it's difficult. So I'm going to give her that because she would know what I don't know. That's for sure. Okay. So she says there were glimmers of hope during Indiana's 1-8 start. Clark had a few big scoring games and was second in the league in assists. She was named League Rookie of the Month for May. She wasn't having trouble getting her shot off. She just wasn't making enough of them. She was spotting open teammates. She just needed to clean up some of the passes. I never really got down because I knew everything was so controllable. I would come home at night and would be like, this is so annoying because I know I'm literally like right there. I love this. I love this. Listen to what she's saying. Because I know I'm literally like right there of being one of the best players in the league. She holds her forefinger a milli-inch from her thumb. I knew I was so close to doing so many amazing things. So again, she is well aware of her talent. I know I'm close to being one of the best players. This is the rookie. No, AR, she wasn't. She wasn't. I'm sure she said it. So she knows the potential. So when the FIBA hosted Chicago Sky and Reese in the first pro meeting between the two college superstars on June 1st, Indiana gutted out a 71-70 victory. Clark had skipped the Noah concert, number one on my bucket list the night before, knowing it would be a bad look to be seen out given the team's terrible record. I love that. Again, above, some people don't care about that. They do other stuff. They're working podcasts during the season. They're doing all kinds of stuff. She's like, man, we're losing. And I'm going to show up at a game. She understands the optics. Optics matter. All right. So she said, it says, but that contest won't be remembered for the basketball. In the third, it said, that's what the author is saying, won't be remembered for the basketball. In the third quarter, Chicago's Kennedy Carter hip checked Clark to the floor. Carter was called for a foul, which the next day was upgraded to a flagrant 1 violation. But while the WNBA could revise the ruling, it could not stem the ensuing furor. That Reese jumped off the bench and appeared to cheer Carter only added fuel to another Clark-adjacent fire. Some pundits cited Carter's foul as evidence that jealous players, particularly Black players, were targeting Clark. The Chicago Tribune weighed in with an editorial imploring that Clark, quote, must not be allowed to become a target for rule breakers. The Tribune wrote that Carter's foul would have been, quote, seen as an assault outside the sports arena. The intense commentary came with consequences. Security had to intervene at the Skies Hotel a few days later when a man approached Carter with the camera. I've been called every racial slur imaginable lately, and my teammates have had it even worse. Sky 4 Brianna Turner wrote on X. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen some of the footage of that. Seemed to me that the guy showed up and asked a question. Don't remember anything being aggressive. I think he did what reporters do, and he asked Kennedy Carter a question. So that's what I see there. But notice that it's pointing out there's an agenda here. So you got to be able to see this. Carter's foul is evidence that jealous players, particularly Black players, were targeting Clark. And it points out they must not be allowed to become she must not be allowed to become a target and then seen as an assault. Now, they use that because they're trying to paint the picture that people are saying this because these players are Black. So they're using the term assault, and they're trying to suggest that people are having racial responses. So Clark cast aside any notion that envious opponents were coming after her. And this also bothers me as much as the white privilege she She cast aside any notion that envious opponents were coming after her. I never thought I was being targeted, says Clark. Obviously, that shouldn't ever happen within a game. But basketball is physical. Goodness, Clark, in 5 years, please don't be saying physicality in every other sentence. But basketball is physical. Your emotions can get the best of you. My emotions have gotten the best of me many times. Okay, so she's showing grace to people who have treated her a certain way. She says she did not see Reese cheering from the bench. I don't even know if she really knew what happened, says Clark. Oh, man. Honestly, I don't think she was cheering because somebody hit me. I really don't think that would be the case. I hope not. I would love to know. And it says Reese's representatives did not make her available for this article. I would love to know how Caitlin said that. Seriously, though. She said, I don't, it says like this. Oh, no, I don't think anybody was targeting me. And I didn't see Reese, and I don't doubt she didn't see Reese jump up. I mean, she's on the floor, I didn't see that. But then she's just like, I don't think anybody would cheer that. At least I hope not. That might be one of those subtle things. I sure hope she wasn't low enough. I sure hope she wasn't grimy enough that she would cheer something like that. So, but she says, I don't think she was cheering that. Everybody, we saw it. I imagine Caitlin saw it as well. But Reese, there was no response from Reese. A lot of people that wanted to have opinions on what was happening probably didn't even watch half the games that they were trying to have a take on and hadn't supported the W for a really long time. And I think this was a gut punch for some people too, because it sounds as if she's saying, all these people with opinions about people mistreating me, all these people with opinions about Kennedy Carter, all these people with opinions about Angel Reese jumping up. Well, I doubt they probably haven't even watched the whole game. They probably weren't even fans of the WNBA for a really long time. And that sounds a little bit to me like what the other people in the league say. The new fans. The new fans. But again, there's a culture in this WNBA. And it rubs off. The day after the incident, in a matchup against the Liberty, Clark ran into a Jonquel Jones screen and ruptured her eardrum. It was vibrating, Clark says. My hearing was really messed up. She shot 1 for 10 from the field in a 36-point drubbing. A 5-day reprieve in the schedule came at the perfect moment. During these off days, Clark shot extremely well during drills. That gave me a lot of confidence. It just reiterates you are one of the best shooters. Mm-hmm. In Indiana's first game back, Clark hit 7 3-pointers en route to a 30-point game and a Fever victory. On the bus, check this out. Now I'm loving that we're getting the inside scoop on some of this stuff. Finally hearing her talk about the Olympics. On the bus, Clark texted her agent that she hoped that performance helped her case to make the Olympic team for Paris. Clark's agent responded immediately. I have to call you. And I'm like, says Clark. She knew they didn't pick her. So for those who said she didn't want to be in the Olympics, not true. And of course, she's a competitor. Did she need the rest? Yep, she'll talk about that. But a baller says, I can rest later. This is the Olympics. So the news predictably was unpleasant. The Olympic roster was about to leak and Clark wasn't on it. USA basketball officials hopped on a call with Clark. They were like, yeah, we haven't selected you. Obviously, we think the world of how you play and blah, blah, blah. She wasn't really listening. She knew she was good enough to be on the team. And she had heard rumblings that she would be. You're welcome, Mac and Cheese. Thank you for being here. Notice what she's saying now. Guys, make sure you hit that like button, please. Notice what she's saying. She wanted to be on the team. She knew she was good enough to be on that team. And she had heard rumblings that she would be on that team. I wonder what happened. I wonder what happened. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to tell it like it is. Tell it like it is. I wonder what happened. So anyway, at the same time, she understood the decision. The 12 players selected included many future Hall of Famers and Olympic veterans. A point everybody was making was like, who are you taking off the team? Clark says. And that was a tremendous point. Clark also admits that during her early stretch for the 3-9 fever, I gave them a lot of reasons to keep me off the team with my play. April, it was insinuated she would be on the team her senior year in college. Okay. Notice what she says. They said, we all heard it before, well, who would you take off the team? And she said, well, that's a good point. But I think that's an easy thing to answer. Diana Taurasi should have been taken off the team. Shouldn't have been on the team. Chelsea Gray shouldn't have been on the team. So it's pretty easy. I mean, it was easy to answer. But she thought about it and said, okay. Then she goes on. Many people, however, rushed to her defense. The gist of the pro-Clark case. Women's basketball missed a golden marketing opportunity to grow the sport, given Clark's popularity. It's an argument that Clark wholly rejects. I don't want to be there because I'm somebody that can bring attention, says Clark. I love that for the game of women's basketball, but at the same time, I want to be there because they think I'm good enough. I don't want to be some little person that is kind of dragged around for people to cheer about and only watch because I'm sitting on the bench. That whole narrative kind of upset me because that is not fair. Interesting. It's disrespectful to the people that were on the team that had earned it and were really good. And it's also disrespectful to myself. And here's the thing. I wasn't one of those people who thought the only reason she should be on the team was for the marketing aspect. I did think that was huge because the game is to be grown and the eyeballs would be on it. But I didn't say, oh, just for that reason. I believe she deserved to be on the team because she was good enough, as she said. Stephen A. Smith, he constantly talked about, well, it's the marketing. It's so dumb to leave her off. And he makes a great point. Yeah, absolutely. They missed a big opportunity. But he would never answer, okay, well, he would be like, well, you can't take any, I understand that she deserves to be there and nobody else should be off the team. No, Stephen A., that's not true. There were others who shouldn't have been on there. And Caitlin deserved to be on there. Period. But guys, I got to call it as it is. One of the things she says here contradicts her uplift the black people thing. I don't want to be there because I'm somebody that can bring attention. I love that for the game. But anyway, at the same time, I want to be there because they think I'm good enough. Hear me when I'm saying. She had just said, we got to get marketing for black players. We got to draw attention to black players. I'm going to make it my business to uplift black players. And now when it comes to her, she says, I want to be there because they think I'm good enough. I don't want to be some little person that is kind of dragged around for people to cheer about and only watch because I'm sitting on the bench. The whole narrative kind of upset me. Thank you, tell it like it is. You hear what I'm saying? And this is why Caitlin is so smart. She's going to put this thing together. Because on one end, she's saying, I got to look at the black players and I got to drag them around so that they can be cheered because they've given so much. And then when it comes to her, she says, I don't want to be dragged around for people to cheer for. I want to be there because I deserve to be there. Why the double standard? And that's why I say it's almost insulting when you say, like Paige said or whatever, that we got to do this for the Black people, do this for the Black people, do this for the Black people, which is an insult in a way. Let the Black people be Black people and play and earn just like everybody else. In what order was that question asked, though? Yeah, we don't know any of that. I'm sure you had a bunch of notes, but it's still the same thing. It's still the same concept. The concept that Black people need you to drag them around and lift them up, but you don't want that for you. Well, you've got to see it as that the same value. They have to do that too. Who are you to be the one to elevate them? That's not your responsibility. And again, she means well. And I think she can put that together at some point. Okay. Because she says it's also disrespectful to her when you do that. And she's exactly right. That's why I said she deserved to be there, and the media. But when you say, oh, let's just make her the token Olympian, she's saying, I'm insulted by that. And I say the same thing works when you start spouting white privilege and lift up the other people and make sure they get the shine. It's disrespectful to them in a way, too. So for the second time in about a week, Clark was leading the sports news cycle. No matter the NBA finals had just tipped off, everyone had a hot take on Clark, except it seemed for Clark. I have a great skill of just blocking it out, says Clark. I don't care what people say about me. Okay, so there's something about that. There's something to be said about that. She does have an amazing ability to block it out. That's a blessing. Yes, Jean, I hope so too. Okay, so she says, I don't care what people say about me. Clark told, so for those of you, of us who suggested maybe she's saying this because she cares what they say, she says she doesn't. Clark told sides the snub woke a monster. Making the 2028 team, here's what she's telling us, is a huge, huge goal. And she believes being left off the Paris roster will definitely motivate me my entire career. She calls her exclusion a blessing. Not only did it fuel her to prove that she belonged on the team, it also granted her a much-needed break. There'd be a 1-month pause in the WNBA schedule to accommodate players competing at the Olympics. The monster rose almost immediately as the Fever began to turn their season around. Indiana went on a 4-game winning streak in June. Clark recorded the first ever rookie triple-double during a home victory against the Liberty. Right before the WNBA All-Star game, Clark had 19 assists, a new WNBA single-game record against the Wings. She started an All-Star game against the U.S. Olympic team, and her 10 assists helped her side to a 117-110 victory. Most importantly, her All-Star experience further dispelled the notion that her pro colleagues were out to put her in her place. And again, this is the author talking. Her fellow All-Stars, Clark says, are all looking to me to call the plays. It just showed the sign of respect they really do have for me. During the first week of the Olympic break, she escaped. She went on vacation with her boyfriend, and it tells us about him. He was a development staffer with Pacers. He's now assistant coach at Butler. She drank a million Shirley Temples with Sprite, devoured French brioche, read Emily Henry's Happy Place, refreshed. She returned to Indianapolis, where the Fever practiced over the break, participating in bonding activities like wiffle ball, home run derby, and she was kicking their tails with that as well. Continuing, when the Fever returned to the court for games, they won 7 of their first 8. Clark led the team to the playoffs for the first time since 2016 and raised her play to all WNBA first team level. During the dog days of August, when sports radio is usually obsessing over the upcoming NFL season, hosts debated the Rookie of the Year race between Reese and Clark, who set a new WNBA record. By this point, Clark had gone global. And it goes on. There was an owner of a Chinese restaurant in West Des Moines recently told Clark's mother that she overheard two kids talking about her daughter on a Taiwanese subway. Clark watch parties were held in Iceland. Fever president at the time, Allison Barber, was driving through Northwest Indiana this summer when she stopped for soup. The owner of the joint saw the Fever logo on her shirt and asked if she had a connection to the team. As Barbara was walking to her car, the owner chased her, holding his phone. He asked if she could say hello to her elderly dad, a Clark diehard in Greece. And so, let's see. On and on and on about, let me read this. Charles Whitehead, a logistics worker, drove 3 hours to the Mohegan Sun Arena to watch Indiana take on Connecticut in the first round of the playoffs. He paid some $500 for his seat near the front row. Guys, these tickets now for this upcoming season are off the hook. And somebody told me, Susan, if you're watching, sent me an email and told me that the tickets have rocketed since she was announced the player of the year. I want to get to a game. Do I got to pay my mortgage? Lindy, I'm not reading anything that's not there. I'm reading the article and I'm giving my perspective. And I think I'm rather accurate in assessing how this works with the culture. Now, if you don't want to agree, then that's fine. That was my point when I started this. Some people agree with me at what I say. Some of you don't. Caitlin Clark has an opinion too. Some of us won't agree and some of us will. Where sports and culture connect. I think it's wise if people recognize that Caitlin Clark doesn't owe you anything and may not think just like you. I may not be reading anything into anything. So, I mean, it might just be how she feels. And she's entitled. You can buy Aces tickets for 15 to 20 bucks. I don't know, but I got to get some tickets to see Indiana, man. But this guy, $500 he paid. Go. He said, Caitlin got me here. He's 35. He's wearing a red Clark Fever jersey. He points across the court where Clark is signing autographs less than an hour before tip-off. Rock star, he says. I wonder if before Clark's emergence, Whitehead ever pictured himself wearing a women's basketball jersey and paying good money for WNBA playoff tickets. And nope, he says. Never. That, ladies and gentlemen, Caitlin Clark, that is the Caitlin Clark effect. It's not white privilege. It is the Caitlin Clark effect. This guy says, he says several nevers and several nopes. No way would I be wearing this women's basketball jersey at any other time. It's the Caitlin Clark effect, Caitlin. Embrace it and thank God for it. Clark thought Indiana could make it to the championship. I knew she did. Some people said, oh, that's just wishful thinking. That's dumb to think they could. That's what ballers do, man. Patrick Ewing used to say every season, yeah, I think we can make the playoffs. I think we can win a championship. And people would be like, man, Patrick Ewing, he says that all the time. Patrick Ewing said, what do they expect me to say? No, we're going to stink up the court and lose? Exactly, Pope. When the shoes come out, everybody's going to be wearing them. All over. Okay. So she did think that they could make it to the championship. People would probably laugh if they read that in this article, but I was being dead serious. In the end, however, the Sun swept the Fever, but not before Clark found herself at the center of one last controversy. In Game 7, Connecticut's Dejanay Carrington, in Game 1, Connecticut's Dejanay Carrington poked Clark in the eye while trying to deflect a pass. And notice that the author, there was an agenda, the author is telling you what happened. The author is dismissing whatever you think happened. It's subtle, but that's what writers do. Okay. So, trying to deflect a pass. The contact became more fodder for social media and elsewhere. After USA Today's Christine Brennan asked Carrington if she intended to hit Clark in the eye. Obviously, it's never intentional, Carrington said. The WNBA Players Union publicly called for Brennan's credentials to be revoked, saying the interview was, quote, a blatant attempt to bait a professional athlete into participating in a narrative that is false and designed to fuel racist, homophobic, and misogynistic vitriol on social media. All that? The lady asked you if you did it on purpose. And the result was that the question was meant to fuel racist, homophobic, misogynistic vitriol. I'm in the media. I asked the question. Christine Brennan has been an advocate for the league. It was probably more of an opportunity for her to tell her side of the story and quell the nonsense. Top Gun, I know, right? But by asking you, I'm a member of the media. By asking you if this was on purpose, I am participating in racist, homophobic, misogynistic vitriol. This is why you can't believe what half these people say. Because they're so skewed that any question that brings pressure, any criticism on a player, it's racist, it's misogynistic. That's why I say, where's the evidence of all the racism that everybody was talking about? Like I said, I'm sure there was some. But where are the receipts, as they say? Because everything is considered racism now. Oh, Angel Reese missed the layup. Oh, they must be racist. Oh, whatever it is. And again, when everything is racist, nothing can be taken seriously. So, after the Sun eliminated the fever, Connecticut's Alyssa Thomas said, I think that in my 11-year career, I never experienced the racial, from the Indiana Fever fan base. This whole contretemps, I should know that word, but I don't, still annoys Clark. And when she was asked about it, you could tell she was annoyed. When they asked Caitlin Clark if she thought it was on purpose, she looked annoyed and turned and walked away. So no way does Caitlin Clark believe that it was done on purpose. She said, never once did that cross my mind that it was on purpose. I've been poked in the eye many times playing basketball. It happens. So no. She might be a little naive because she also said she doesn't think that Angel Reese jumped up with, because she had gotten bulldozed by Kennedy Carter, unless she was just needling there. But it annoyed her. It happens. But I got to wonder, did anybody else see the skit that Dejanay did with Caitlin's teammate, Nalissa Smith? Because maybe I'm inclined, Sawana Brawley. Oh man, you're going back. Maybe I'm inclined to believe that it wasn't on purpose. But then when you do a video about it and you laugh about it, now I'm suspect. Because who does that? If I mistakenly poke you in the eye and hurt you, and her eye was blackened, I won't joke about it. Even if it was a mistake, I feel bad about it. I'm not going to joke about it. But they did. Maybe Caitlin didn't see it. So she said it annoyed her that people thought that way. So it goes on to say, Clark feels debate about intent reveals a gender double standard. That wasn't Caitlin's words. That's the author's words. Debate about the intent reveals a gender double standard. And again, the word gender should be sex. It's not gender. If that would have happened in the NBA, do you think people would have showed up the next day and been like, hey, Tyrese Halliburton, did you poke Steph Curry in the eye on purpose? She says. While Clark says she wasn't aware that the union was going to reprimand Brennan, she supported its decision. That whole line of questioning that Carrington got was not appropriate. And I did not like that. No. No. The language is altered, and I'm calling it what it is. Male and female are sexes. Gender is an identity, so-called. But sex that's male and female. And that's what she's talking about. So I'm not changing the wording. I'm holding to what the word means and refusing the new woke term. So, in any case, she says if she were a man, that wouldn't be questioned. I saw, there was that body language expert, Michael. And I don't know. I don't know. I just know that if I did something and I hurt somebody, and it wasn't on purpose, I wouldn't joke about it. But in this case, though, she's saying that if she was a guy, and I gotta say, Caitlin, I think she's right to a certain extent, but I think if there's a history of a certain behavior and you are a man, then people are still going to be suspicious because there's a history. There's a history of Dejanay talking smack about Caitlin. There's a history of players in the league roughing up Caitlin. So it's not about her being a woman versus a man. It's about the track record. Your reputation precedes you is said for a reason. So I don't know, Jean Ray. I'm talking, so I'm not reading the comments. I know I'm not putting her down, but I'm discussing because that's what adults do. She's not 2 years old. We can talk. Now, what other people are doing, I don't know. But my comments are not to put her down. Some of y'all need to toughen up. And use the same, I'm going to say something that's going to step on some toes. Use the same criteria for your defense of Caitlin as you do for Angel Reese, as you do for Cheryl Swoops, as you do for Asia Wilson. So sometimes I got to go miss me with that because you're selective in who we extend grace to, right? Aren't we all to a certain extent? And Jay says no. Jay said I ain't even pretending. All right. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we got to have the same. If we're gonna have if we're gonna say, oh, don't say anything. Don't talk about this at all. Don't. And then as soon as Cheryl Sue says something, we jump all over it, right? So we all have selective grace at times, right? It's just true. But right here, I'm not dogging Caitlin. I'm discussing because that's what I do. And even if she doesn't agree with a word I said, I would still say, Caitlin, you have every right to disagree. And I have every right to discuss it. So, continuing on. Many observers seem inclined to reserve judgment on Clark in her approach to confronting off-court issues, given that she was a rookie adjusting to life as an athletic icon. She should be afforded some grace. This is what we're talking about. Fag Bentley texts. And Fag Bentley, if you just come in, you may have missed the comment she said. Troubling, I believe. But she goes on to say, understanding the racial tensions in this country, could she have been more proactive about condemning her racist fans' words and distancing herself from them? This is Timmy. Sure. If she's comfortable standing up for others and challenging her racist fans unsolicited, but not everyone is built like that. Interesting. When asked if Clark did enough to combat the racist threats against other players, Montgomery, the Atlanta Dream co-owner and former player, declined to comment. Dream forward Cheyenne Parker Titus, meanwhile, says she thinks Clark handled it all well. I'm not concerned about her and how she stands with racial comments or hateful comments. She says she feels the way we all feel. She's made that clear. And she shouldn't have to answer that. Caitlin Clark, it should be a given that racist comments, despicable comments are unacceptable. Like me getting up and saying it shouldn't make it, I should be given the benefit of the doubt. Have you heard me say anything racist? Is there any reason why you think I'm racist? So why in the world do you want me to speak for something some knucklehead says? So Timmy says she could have been more proactive. She uses the term racist fans a couple times. So maybe they know some stuff. They've seen some stuff. They've experienced some stuff that we haven't seen. I know in June, Caitlin said she hadn't seen a lot of it. I know people want her to say more and do more. This is Tamika Catchings talking. And I'm like, at 22 years old, how many of us have the skill set, have the ability to be able to communicate? Says former Fever star and Hall of Famer Tamika Catchings, whose franchise rookie scoring record Clark broke this year. She's a game changer on the court. But having to be a game changer off the court and get into the politics part of it, I don't know if that's her responsibility. Thank you, Tamika. I think you're saying it's not her responsibility. It's not. Like she said, she's there to play basketball. She's a game changer on the court. I'm not sure it's her responsibility to take on weird people saying weird things. Okay, April. Oh, did you order from the store? They send it directly from the store. Your book is already in the mail, by the way. It's supposed to come Thursday or Friday. All right, so we're close to wrapping up here. While Terry Jackson, executive director of WNBA Players Association, hopes Clark leans into her voice more. Here we go again. You still there? Oh, it kicked me out of there. I'm still here. Let me get back down. I think Time Magazine said you've been in here too long. So let me get back. I thought I lost you guys again. Here we go. While Terry Jackson, executive director of WNBA Players Association, hopes Clark leans into her voice more down the road. Let's be clear, she says, the responsibility for setting the tone and sending a message was absolutely at the league and team, but particularly at the league level. During her WNBA Finals press conference, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert promised to, quote, attack racism against his players multidimensionally. She hinted at potential online controls to help clean up the discourse. Well, there you go. There are some technology solutions out there we could deploy and employ. You could also say to your team, stay off social media and not listen to the trolls. Something I've been wanting to talk more about, which I have already talked about. What comes with being a professional athlete is speaking on important issues, says four-time WNBA champion Sue Bird. So Sue Bird says that it is her responsibility. Of course she feels that way. It's an activist league. So she's saying that being a professional athlete means you have to speak out on important issues. I dare say, no, you don't. I dare say you are to speak out on the pick and roll, on the pass, on the turnovers, on the scoring championships. I don't know that it's your job to be an activist. But she went on. And so I imagine she's going to continue to educate. Sue says, Caitlin needs to educate herself better so she can call out every bit of nonsense in the world. So I imagine she's going to continue to educate and get better at that as well. In today's world, people will use you if you don't speak about your own feelings and thoughts. So by getting more comfortable and confident in your voice, you can eliminate that. So if Caitlin doesn't denounce the racism in the whole world, then people are going to use her. No, Sue Bird, people are using you to be a tool, to be an activist. Continuing. Clark says she really does stay off social media during the season and wasn't aware that talk about the eye poke, for example, was percolating until she was asked about it. It's something I'm trying to navigate, she says. I'm trying to find a balance while being a rookie. And so again, this is the thing that she finds herself in. This is the grace. She's being honest here. I'm trying to find a balance. I'm a rookie, and they got these other things, and people are pulling on me here and there. Say this, do this, don't say this. But she hears the calls imploring her to step up for her colleagues, particularly in a league known for its outspokenness on social justice issues. She said, I hear you. You're asking me to speak out. And I hear that. So is that what we can look forward to? She says, I hear the calls. This is a league that is known for its outspokenness on social justice issues. I'm probably the most popular player in the league at the moment, and somebody a lot of people turn to have a voice on this type of stuff. I hope we can do a better job as a league of protecting our players and putting better resources around them to make it a safer environment. And obviously, there's only so much you can police on social media because we don't have full control over social media. But there is a real responsibility. I understand that, and I acknowledge that. So what's her message to bad faith actors harassing others in her name? Just stop, she says, because that's not who I am. Now, do I think Caitlin Clark said, hey, I want to give you a message, and I want you to allow me to tell these people who are so racist, etc., I want you to let me have a word with them. Rudy, I don't know how to put you on. Like, this is not through StreamYard. That's what I wanted to do, but StreamYard wouldn't connect. I just purchased it and it wouldn't connect me. I was going to ask people to come on and wanted to come on. But listen to what she's saying, guys. If this is true, and this is what Caitlin really feels, we can expect her to be more outspoken. She's telling you that I was trying to navigate being a rookie, but I understand the league. I know it's the pressure. I get that this is what it's supposed to be like. And so I'll do better next time. I'm going to make sure that there's protection. I can't do everything, but I'm going to do something. I missed the Cheryl Swoops thing, but people keep referring to it, so I got to make sure I go and take a look at that. But that's what she's saying. She says, but this is true. This is good because there are people who are doing certain things. And she has said, if you're doing that in my name, please stop it. Just stop. I mean, like, I don't have many more. And that really should be the end of it. If I really got to say anything, which I shouldn't have to. I mean, if I know somebody doing it, then I go, okay, stop it. But folks who are acting a fool on social media, you're not reining them in. But I'm still wondering, why are we only hearing this about Caitlin Clark? Like, it's just the people who are trolling for Kate. Why is she carrying this whole weight? Am I the only one who has seen other people say racist things about Caitlin Clark? About other people? Everybody is putting it on her. I don't understand that. I shouldn't say I don't understand it. I do understand that there's an agenda. But I've seen all kinds of stuff. I've been on the other end of it. And that's why I said, for those of you who don't understand, there are people, some of them Black, who are content creators, who are out there, who are defending Caitlin against the people who say, oh, it's just because she's privileged. Oh, it's just because she's white. And we have taken abuse. I'm not playing a victim. It's not really words, whatever. But we've taken people coming at us. And then it seemed like that she acknowledges that, oh, yeah, I do have privilege. So that's where some people are coming from. So to get to lunch after her workout, I trail Clark down a rainy back alleyway that smells like garbage, past the raised trash service bins, through the kitchen, down a narrow flight of stairs to a private room or restaurant scouted by her security team. She says her team gave her a 30-page PDF with instructions on how to navigate movements at the Swift concert. See, her life is never going to be the same. the security detail, all this stuff. She's like, I just want to go to the concert. I want to go see my boyfriend's brother play without being on the Jumbotron. And yet she's so gracious about it. I tell Clark and Hull, who has joined us, that the walk reminded me of the famous line from Goodfellas, where the mafioso, played by Ray Liotta, enters the Copacabana through the kitchen. They haven't seen the film, but appreciate the comparison. We're mobsters, says Caitlin or Clark. After carnitas and fish tacos, we talk about their new head coach, Stephanie White, who had been hired 3 days earlier. Indiana had dismissed sides in October. Management wanted a coach with more playoff experience. White, a former Fever player, coached the Sun the past 2 seasons and led Indiana to the WNBA Finals and head coach in 2015. Clark insists she had nothing to do with the change. I'm actually not the general manager of the team, she says, believe it or not, adds Hull. So she says she had nothing to do with Christy Sides being let go. But then she does say something kind of interesting. Clark's eyes are glued to the TV where the USC women are playing Ole Miss on the opening day of college basketball. I feel like if I was out there, I would literally have 50. A 50 piece. The college game is so much easier than professional, she says. But Clark knows she can get better. She expresses admiration for White's game plans against the Fever. We didn't usually have the best game plan back. She's talking about Christy Sides coaching here. We didn't usually have the best game plan back, Clark said when White stopped by the gym during her workout. Like, here's a ball screen, Caitlin. Figure it out. I wish I could put them on, but you can't do that on going through Zoom. She can freaking ball BR55. Don't care about race, creed, color, whatever. This is the first time she's made a comment about Christy Sides. It's a small sentence. No, I can't do. I can only do it through StreamYard. It's a little statement about Christy Sides. Notice what she says. Here's a ball screen, Caitlin. Figure it out. That's all that needed to be said. Rudy says she has something to do with it. And most people thought she would have had something to do with it. Thank you, Boxing and Bulldog. Yeah, she you know, they're gonna run that by. I mean, I assume they're gonna run that by their franchise player. She says she didn't. I don't know. But then she basically said in that one sentence, Christy Sides had no plan at all. Figure it out is what she told. And notice that she's so smart. It might have escaped you. Listen, Christy Sides constantly said, we got to figure it out. We got to figure it out. If you hear her in the post game, we just got to figure it out. And what does Caitlin say? Christy Sides says, like, here's a ball screen, Caitlin. Figure it out. At one point, talk turned to Clark's high school soccer career. I would get so many yellow cards. You still do, said White. What are you talking about? Indeed, Clark finished her season with 6 technical fouls, tied for second most in the WNBA. I only probably deserved like 2. Ha! White yelled. Yeah, she's a comedian too. So obviously she knows about Caitlin's technical getting abilities. And I like to see that how they mesh, but they have for some time. We're nearing the end here. Controlling Clark's fire has always been a challenge for her coaches. It makes her special, but texts can come back to bite you. Same with her mistakes. Clark shattered the WNBA's all-time season record for turnovers, but you want her throwing some high-risk passes. Exactly. As for other areas of improvement, Clark's working on her mid-range shooting. I used to have a middle bag, she says. I just never had to use it. And she wants to get stronger. Team's number one tactic of stopping me is be physical with her, Clark says, because they know either I don't like it or it can throw me off. Speculation was swirling about whether Clark would play in Unrivaled. Now we get to hear her talk about Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 league founded by Stuart and Nafisa Collier that begins in January. The startup has attracted attention as a way for WNBA players to make more money without having to play overseas. Still, Clark, who made $75,000 plus in salary her first year on the Fever, but thanks to her many endorsements, is doing just fine financially, is taking a pass. Now, they had, when did Unrivaled announce their list? When did they do that? It was the 20th. It was the 20th when they did their supposed live thing. Exactly, Rudy. It was the 20th. Now, it seems to me this was in November, this interview. So I don't know the timetable exactly, but she's already telling them here, even though they weren't telling us, that she wasn't playing. I mean, depending on which was first, the chicken or the egg here. But she says, I didn't rule out doing it in the future, but this year is just not the best for me. She says she thinks spending the winter lifting weights and working solo in the gym will elevate her game. It's going to be good for me to do my own thing and have my own space. I kind of want to just stay out of the limelight. Good luck with that, Caitlin Clark. Yeah, the 22-minute trash. So she just wants to be low, be on the down low. She'll be back there soon enough. Personally, I'm just scratching the surface. This is the confidence. I told you guys she's coming into season 2 with a swagger. And I hope by saying the stuff she said that they wanted to hear her say doesn't cost her. But personally, I'm just scratching the surface of what I can do and hopefully how I can change the world and impact people. Kelsey Mitchell already told us, Kelsey, that Caitlin has changed the world. She said there's also been so many people that are not involved in women's sports, that are just in the workforce or whatever they do. And they're just like, thank you for what you do for women. I've heard that a million times. With lunch wrapped, Clark drives to White's press conference where she sits front row with Boston and Hull. Her day concludes at historic Hinkle Fieldhouse where she watches McCaffrey's Butler team win its season opener. Fifth grader Ellie Dillon and a friend, both wearing Clark shirts, wait more than a half hour after the game to catch Clark, who, as she's leaving the gym with McCaffrey, stops to give them autographs. It almost doesn't feel real, says Dillon moments after meeting Clark, that's actually her standing right in front of you. That's an interesting, that's a poor ending to an article, by the way, said this writer. But yeah. So they end it with saying, it almost doesn't feel real, says Dillon moments after meeting Clark, that's actually her standing right in front of you. So there it is. I said it would be lengthy. And the title of this was something like, did she go full Paige Beckers on us? Is it just that she's 22, she's young, or is she spot on? Is she spot on? The white privilege, the need to uplift the black people, the fans being overzealous. Because listen, it sounds to me like she's not feeling all this talk about her being targeted. And probably because she's got to face these people. She's got to walk into the gym and play with these people and against these people. And it can be tough. I'm imagining, but sounds to me that she's not feeling it. Where do I find this Cheryl Swoops thing? I don't even know. I've been busy all day, and I came back and home, and then I did a video, and then I went out on errands, and I came back tonight and started a live. So I'm hearing people mention Cheryl Swoops, but I don't know what she said, but I got to check it out. So what's my final decision about this? My final decision is that she's 22 years old. I don't think that they sculpted the article in a certain way, but I don't think that they put words in her mouth. I think that when there's an old saying, and if you're not a conservative, then, forgive me for it if you don't like it. But, and Gil's Arena, I should have known. But there's a saying that says something like, if you're young and you're not a liberal, then you're not compassionate or something. But if you're older and not a conservative, then you're not smart. I don't know. It's some saying out there. But at 22 years old, I understand there's a culture in this league. And I do think that it plays a factor. I think the people come in one way and kind of leave another way. It's an activist league. There's a lot of pressure. And you spend enough time there, you start to Leroy, you start to think a certain way. It's like when you send your kids off to these institutions. When I say institutions, I mean colleges. It's like throwing them to the wolves, man. It's just, the mindset, the mentality, it changes. They'd be better left not going. I'm sorry to say that from a person who's a teacher, but there's a certain mindset and mentality. But I'm going to say something I said before. As a person of common sense and as a person of faith, I believe Caitlin is here for such a time as this. And I believe that it's not about white privilege. There are things that people continue to call white privilege that is simply the favor of God. It has always been that way. And God uses people as he sees fit. And it doesn't seem to make sense. And sometimes you take the people who, listen, they did it with Jesus. Like, isn't this the carpenter's son? Can anything good come out of, really? Like, can anything good come out of Iowa? And God does what he does. And I think that there are times when people say, oh, it's privilege. And you're just like, no, you're missing it. You're missing it. It's blessing. It's an open door. There's so much more. And I wouldn't give the credit to the privilege, to the white privilege, because there are other white players. But some people are marked for certain times to do certain things. Embrace it. Be humble as she is, even though that's right. It is divine privilege, Mackage. It is. And I believe it's honor. I mean, I just do. And like I said, there are things that her emergence has brought to the light. Some of it good, a lot of it bad in other people. So did she go full Paige Beckers? Hey, if she did, she did. I mean, she did. Now, so here's the question. Are you all mature enough to say, I enjoy the basketball? I mean, that's, like I said, it's the same thing with me. The people who say, oh my goodness, you're a conservative, then I can't hear you talk about layups. Well, then you're immature and you're hypocritical because you're going to all kinds of places and supporting all kinds of things, and people don't agree just like you, and neither do they have to. Smoke says, what is it about Caitlin that drew you to her? The girl can play basketball, Smoke. And I dare say that's most people. That's why I'm not buying into all this stuff. It's basketball. And some people are just like, they're drawn to her and they don't even know why. They've not been basketball fans. They're marked. And unless we want to believe that all these people are just racist people, then we're going to have to say there's something else going on here. Number one, she can play basketball. Number two, she constantly in her speech uplifts other people, even has an opportunity to dog other people. Some of us wish she would be like, Adrienne, but she doesn't do it. She carries herself a certain way. She goes out and she plays basketball, and we don't want to see her give in and cave and then start making speeches about white privilege. We don't want her to do that. She doesn't need to do that. She owes nobody nothing. Nobody. So that's the deal. That's the deal. But I think most of us are dialed in because I can't even tell you the people who said to me, I never watched a basketball game ever. And now I'm watching. Or the people who said, I used to watch the basketball and it's been a long time, but I came back. So that's what brought me. Okay, so Michael, you just said something that reminded me of something. I see you see Coach Carter movie. And I put this on social media back when she was coming out of college. when I said she doesn't need to apologize after Cameron Brink said whatever she said. Remember that line from Coach Carter, which actually comes from a poem from Marion, what's her last name? You know, it's also in, I think, Akilah and the Bee. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is your light, right? It is our light, not our darkness. Something like that it says. But this is the part I want to get to. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing admirable, to paraphrase, about playing small so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine as God's children. It's not just in some of us, it's in all of us. And when you let your light shine, you unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. When you are liberated from your own fear, your presence liberates others. And that's the point. She doesn't need to play small so that other people don't feel insecure around her. It doesn't serve the world. And so those are my thoughts. She's young. She's entitled to her thoughts. And she's quite a basketball player. And there it is. Okay. Yeah, one of the most beautiful poems. All right. Okay, everybody. So I appreciate that. The conversation, this is what it's about. It's not about digging our heads in the sand and saying, oh, CC said something, I better not say anything about it because everybody's going to think I don't like it. We don't have time for that. We don't. Conversations. This is the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect, because sports are a microcosm of society. So thank you so much. BR, how does this wonderful young lady deal with all the stupid drama? Yeah. She be all right. She be all right, y'all. She be all right. Thank you so much. Hit the like button on your way out if you haven't done so. All right. El Profesor. Yes. Thank you so much for that donation. Yes. All right. I'll catch you guys next time, of course, God willing. Make sure you stay on tune. Make sure you check out my new channel, guys. I used to not talk about sports and culture here. I talked about everything on the Adrienne Ross Show. But since this has been sports and culture, I rebranded, as you can see, the new intro. And I started another channel, Adrienne Ross Squared 2, squaring off from A to Z. And I didn't put any content up yet, but you can go subscribe over there. I'm just going to, but it's going to include all kinds of things, including political stuff. So, go over there at your own risk. And, at your own risk. I'm going to put the link. I'm trying to pull up the link. And I'm going to put the link in I'm going to end by putting the link here as soon as I find it, because I need the whole URL. There it is. So subscribe over there. Content coming. You can check it out. All right, everybody. God bless you abundantly. Thank you. I appreciated you guys. Enjoyed you so much. Good night. Thank you, Jay.